This is the second half of Module 3.4, the multiplicative and the additive inverse properties. All right, so I have a chart here with some things missing. When it's in this first column, I'm giving you just the basic number to start out with, and what you're supposed to give me is the additive inverse and then the multiplicative inverse. And if I give you this one, I gave you the additive inverse, and you have to give me the original number and then the multiplicative inverse. And then on this last one, I gave you the multiplicative inverse, and you have to give me the additive inverse and his original form. So let's get started. Let's start with the 4 up in the top left corner because it's the easiest one to deal with. So if I give you the real number 4, and I want his additive inverse. Additive inverse means the opposite sign. So I want to write here, and you can write this if you want to take these notes. Change the sign. So that means if I want the additive inverse, I have to take whatever number I gave you on the real number column and change his sign to be the opposite sign. So if I'm given the number 4, what would the additive inverse be? -4, that's right. So going down, I'm missing the additive inverse over here, the real number. So if I gave you that -8 is the additive inverse, what would the original be? That's right, it would be +8. Very good. Now, we'll skip this for just a minute. We're going to focus on our additive inverses. And then look at our last one. We have -0.2, which is read -2/10. And if I want his additive inverse, what would he be? That's right. It would be +2/10. Now, I will tell you, you can either write it like this as 0.2, or I'll write it out to the side so you can see both. Or you can write it like this, 2/10. If you want to go ahead and write it as a fraction, that's totally fine because they mean the same thing. Now, the only thing I'm going to say is if you have 2/10, what should you always do? Reduce your fraction, that's right. So if you reduce it, here I'll move it over again, sorry. If I were to reduce this, it would be 1/5. But again, all 3 of those pieces of information represent the same value, okay? Now, when I'm talking about multiplicative inverse is reciprocal. And what does reciprocal mean in math? It means to flip. So if you want to write this, flip over, that way it kind of gives you a little hint as to what you're supposed to do. So I want to go back to the original, and I want to flip it. Well, how do I flip the number 4? What is always understood to be under our number 4? That's right. It has an understood 1 in the denominator. Why is it a 1? Because 1 in the denominator does not change the value of the whole entire number itself, 4. 4 divided by 1 means one group of 4. So when I take my number 4 and I do the reciprocal and I flip it over, 4/1 becomes 1/4. So the multiplicative inverse means I take my real number and I flip it over into a fraction. So if I know that's true, when I take my real number 8 over here that I found and I want to do the multiplicative inverse of that one, what do? Flip it. So if I had 8, that should be 8/1. So that means that would become 8/1 changes into 1/8. That's right, because all I did was do the reciprocal, which means to flip. Now let's go to this one. I have 7/3. Well, if 7/3 is already the multiplicative inverse, how can I get back from the multiplicative inverse to the original number? What would I do? Flip it back over. So I can take 7/3 and I can flip it back over to 3/7, and that is my original number. If I have my original number, now I can do my additive inverse. So if the original number was 3/7, what would the additive inverse be now? Remember, additive inverse just means change the sign. So it would be -3/7. Very good. All right, our last one. I have the original number, which was -2/10. If you want to write it out here like this, 2/10, or you want to write it as 1/5, remember it's a negative. How would I find the multiplicative inverse of that? I would flip it over. So I'm going to use the reduced fraction right here, -1/5. And I'll write it over here, -1/5. And I'm going to do the reciprocal. So that would be -5/1. Now, do you really need the 1 as your denominator? No. So I can rewrite this even as -5. All right. That's all we have for additive and multiplicative inverses. Come back with us and see another module.